On this episode of Is It Fun, we're going to be talking about Ninja Gaiden. Gaiden.
There are thousands of classic games.
Stop. Wait a minute. Go back. Wait, of course it's fun. Why do I even ask? I love Ninja Gaiden. Most people love Ninja Gaiden. But after you watch this video, I want you to have an even greater appreciation for this NES classic.
By the time Ninja Gaiden arrived in March of 1989, there were already tons of fantastic titles on the NES. But something was different about this one. The ninja theme, tight controls, cinema scenes, soundtrack, and its notoriously brutal difficulty. So many things set it above its competition. One thing that didn't was its kinda weird commercial. If you actually pay attention, beyond the dad eating popcorn and the mom knitting or whatever, the kid actually sneaks out of his bedroom, goes downstairs, and takes the game from the kitchen counter. He obviously got in trouble and had it taken away.
Ninja Gaiden.
Wait. Ninja Gaiden? What is this game actually called? In Japan, it's called Ninja Ryukenden, which translates Legend of the Ninja Dragon Sword. But NES games have to have confusing, hard-to-pronounce titles.
Astyanax, or Astyanax, Astyanox.
So in North America, it was renamed Ninja Gaiden, which clueless kids like myself always pronounced as Gaiden. Gaiden means something like side story, which is really weird because it's not a side story. It's the first game in the series. And no, the lesser-known Ninja Gaiden beat-em-up arcade game doesn't count as the first game. It came out only 2 months earlier. Some territories censored the word ninja, as such a word would turn otherwise wholesome children into ill-mannered deviants. So in some places, Ninja Ryukenden Gaiden was called Shadow Warriors, which actually sounds and looks kinda better. No matter how you slice it, ninjas are awesome, and in the 80s with ninja movies and characters like Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow from G.I. Joe, everyone seemed to think so. Almost. So, to have a non-stop action ninja game as polished and slick as Ninja Gaiden was every kid's dream come true. Since you play as a ninja, tight controls are necessary and must respond immediately to every finger twitch. While there are some minor annoyances with jumping and knockback damage, Ninja Gaiden's controls are near perfection. Ryu runs with intensity, jumps with flair, and his sword strikes are instant and explosive. Tecmo rounded out his ninja skill set with wall clinging and secondary weapons like ninja stars, the windmill throwing star which boomerangs around until you catch it, the art of the fire wheel, and screw attack. Wait, wrong game. Jump and slash technique. Whatever. These secondary attacks consume spiritual strength, or ninpo, which can be replenished by collecting red and blue symbol squares found when breaking street lights, lanterns, and inside little bird intestines and spiders and bugs for some reason. Slashing these open is vital, as you'll also find weapons, the invincibility fire wheel, and a health object which for some reason reminded 12-year-old me of a uterus. With breakable floating item drops and up and B secondary weapons, it plays a lot like Castlevania, but it takes the 8-bit action formula up a notch, making everything quicker, more explosive, and absolutely non-stop. Sometimes I feel sorry for the enemies. Like this weird goblin hag thing, just standing there all day, pacing back and forth, throwing things. The Jackal only pays like $7.50 an hour. How did my life come to this? I'm just a stupid circus freak crony just throwing these over and over. How did she climb up there? She can barely walk. And these poor guys' entire existence seems to be running off cliffs. Another standout in Ninja Gaiden is level variety. Ryu scales mountains and crosses bridges and slices his way through Galesburg City, Crystal Lake, the snow-capped Lizard Mountains, the Amazon rainforest, and half a dozen more beautiful environments spread across 6 action-packed stages, or as Tecmo thematically branded them, acts. In a move that changed the landscape of video game storytelling, they gave the game a cinematic feel, which they termed Tecmo Theater with Cinema Display, boasting the use of movie techniques like close-ups and different camera angles. But they had to work within the confines of the NES hardware, so they opted for dynamic comic book style stills and splash screens.
As a kid, I never understood the story or actually cared what was happening. I mean, I liked that it had cutscenes, but I never actually bothered to read them. But now as an adult, I was curious. What the heck is this game about?
Without giving anything away, there are a lot of twists, turns, ambiguous loyalties, side characters with croissant hair, and, believe it or not, strong similarities to Star Wars. But at its core, it's about a psycho named Guardia de Mew, aka the Jackie O, well, whatever. He wants to bring two cursed artifact statues together and resurrect an ancient evil demon to destroy the world. You know, the huge. The pacing was geared for barely literate children, which makes it feel slow. I am Moth. You will never get past me. Then I must defeat you. Okay. You are as bold as your father, but he is a much better swordsman. Okay, go to the next part. Go. But the story is solid, especially for an NES game. Illustrator Masato Kato, who later worked on Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VII, expertly conveyed the story with over 20 minutes of cutscenes that are iconic and memorable to this day. All these dramatic, comic-like cutscenes and bug-slashing, spin-jumping actions are accompanied by an unbelievably good soundtrack. Ninja Gaiden does what all masterpiece games do. It uses music to accentuate the graphics, so you can almost feel what you're seeing. Action sequences feel relentlessly intense. While the cinema scenes feel more emotional with mystery, intrigue, and sadness, fitting whatever the scene requires. By far, the biggest complaint people have about Ninja Gaiden is its difficulty. The box says it's the fight of your life, and they mean it.
I literally died playing this. I got better.
Danger is everywhere, and often weird. Boxers, monkeys, machine gunners, punk rockers, this thing, that thing, again. And no one respects my talents. No one even knows I bake delicious pies. And of course, the dreaded bats and birds that swoop around erratically, killing you often. You're gonna get used to this sound. The birds wouldn't be so bad on their own, but Ninja Gaiden also has a notorious respawning issue. It's coded such that enemies spawn as you cross certain trigger points on the map. But the problem is, they spawn every time, sometimes infinitely. To make matters worse still, collisions result in knockback, which sometimes pushes you down one of the many pits, and sometimes forces you across a trigger point, respawning another copy of the enemy that just hit you. And enemies are deviously placed in precarious locations, forcing you to strategize your jumps, sword strikes, and which secondary weapon you should have brought to each situation. Planning and memorization are not options. They are mandatory. Fortunately, you have infinite continues, and thankfully, when you do continue, you begin at the beginning of the sub-level rather than the beginning of the entire level, usually. You see, there was a programming mistake. If you die even once against any of the final 3 boss forms, and trust me, you will die, it won't matter that you've completed all 3 sub-levels of the Temple of Darkness. You'll be sent back to Death Bridge at 6-1.
Darn it.
And this mistake was discovered before release.
Darn, doubly darn.
But the designers chose intentionally to leave it in, just to make kids cry. So, if you play it long enough, your thumbs will either bleed out or become muscular. Basically, you have to be a Jedi to complete it. Either that or Hans Solo. Hans Low, the Nintendo counselor who claimed he finished Ninja Gaiden without looking at the screen. Right. So yes, it's difficult, but I learned to approach each situation as a puzzle. How do I use my ninja skills to navigate the platforms and enemies and get to the next challenge? There's a great satisfaction in completing a challenging game like Ninja Gaiden, and once you master the patterns and quick split-second actions, you'll actually feel like a ninja playing it. Even though Ninja Gaiden is almost unanimously revered by retro gamers, I think we forget how much of a landmark game it really is. Its cinematic storytelling changed video games forever. The soundtrack was one of the first to truly match visuals with musical moods. The responsive controls and fast twitch intensity set the bar for action titles, and with multiple sequels across multiple systems, it was only the beginning. Ninja Gaiden takes us back to what made games on the NES so fun, and that pure action fun is still inspiring games today. Thanks for watching.
See you next.